I'm Jason Nunn, Fisherman's Warehouse, Tuckerwood, Marks Point, with the Friday long weekend grand final report. And here we go, up here of course at Marks Point, the backdrop, Lake Macquarie. As you can see guys, there's quite a few boats already out for a Friday. This place here is going to be chock-a-block over this long weekend period. Got some great weather too guys. Today of course we're here, a little bit of northwest coming in, but as you can see behind me over towards Swansea, there's not a lot of wind getting into that part of the lake at the present moment. Tomorrow morning we're going to see light winds turning northeast, and then we've got a bit of a northwester there on Sunday and some very hot conditions basically all day. Monday still looks all right, and we've got still hot weather right the way through till about next Thursday. So a really good run of basic weather. Full moon is tonight guys, so anyone that's chasing mulloway, certainly out on the lake here and or up on the beach, tonight is the night with that build up through. You've got some good tides, 2:30 low tide and a 9 o'clock high tide. Now tomorrow morning that high tide, almost 1.8 metres guys, so it is a good tide, and of course tonight it's the equivalent. We're just going through this transitional phase now where those tides do that shift over, or we end up getting those big tides in the mornings and smaller highs at night after the equinox. Out wide, it's going to be a little bit blowy late tomorrow out wide certainly, but in the morning it's going to be pretty good. But that water temperature is just ever so slowly increasing. There is not a lot of current on the shelf, probably half a knot, maybe a knot in patches, but the water looks very, very good and a very constant temperature. Had a few inquiries this week. Are there any yellowfin? Well guys, I just haven't had any reports. I just think that is just the lack of boats going out and exploring, but with the water as good as it is, there's every opportunity that the yellowfin will be there, and no doubt we'll start to see these first striped marlin coming in for the season. On the Texas, right up on the farm, some really good snapper on the farm, but there's still a lot of kings getting caught in the Texas, and of course tomorrow morning, probably up until a bit after lunch, will be the pick. But I reckon with that nor'east to get out in the afternoon, you want to get back, and Sunday that big nor'wester is probably going to be a little bit too blowy out on that deeper water. But take advantage tomorrow. Inshore, it's just a sprinkling of mixed varieties guys. Squire, flathead of course, the odd trag, few mowies, and still a few bonito around. A few big salmon schools, particularly a bit north of Redhead, and there's been a lot of salmon schools off down around about Cavesy, getting down towards Catherine Bay, and that's what you'd expect coming into the latter part of September. Water temperature on the inshore, a bit above 18 degrees, so it's starting to warm up, but with this hot temperatures, I think you're going to see a bit of improvement, and we're going to start to see what's behind me here come alive. There's a lot of luderick still in Swansea Channel, but there's a lot of action down at the bridge. There's been salmon down at the bridge. There's been a lot of kingies of mixed sizes, live baiting, if you can jig a few squid in the channel, which there is a few early and late, proving to be the better. But it will be very, very busy, guys. So I think the bridge could be just a little bit too busy over this long weekend period with just that boat traffic and certainly that PWC traffic just getting in and out of our estuary. The beaches, salmon along the beaches, and the beaches basically Stockton up towards Barubie as well, right the way through, producing a lot of salmon. There's a little bit early for whiting, there's not a lot of flathead, so it's really salmon and a sprinkling of tailor, and if you're keen, that full moon for a mulloway. The rocks, well look, we've got minimal swell. It's around about 1 metre to maybe half a metre at very, very best, and with these lighter conditions tomorrow morning, a good opportunity to get down on the rocks and spin with that making tide for kings, but you'll want to be there right on daylight, guys, and throw some of those either big chromies or big stick baits, and just particularly catho and no doubt redhead and a couple of, you know, if you're heading up towards Port Stephens, there's plenty of spots on offer, but swell is not going to be a problem for our rock fishermen. If you're coming into the estuary, look, again, my tip is to try to get out early and or late once the heat comes off the traffic, but we're already starting to see quite a few whiting now building, particularly up here at Marks Point and over behind me where the islands are. The flats are starting to come alive, and remembering our first prawn run, as we've spoke about, the 8th of October, and that's the build-up. Whiting, bream, now starting to see good numbers of flathead in the shallower areas, and that gives you an opportunity, guys, to switch over from vibes and start working paddle tails and grub tails with longer casts, lighter jig heads, and then just longer retrieves, just trying to work it through. The lake has got a lot of salmon in it at the moment, guys. That big patch of salmon that's over the back of the Air Force Channel, some really big donkeys there. Some of them like, 2-3 kilo, but the other bigger one. But there really are quite a few flathead on that western side, and we're getting some good reports over here in that Belmont Bay, back up towards Green Point. Move around, look for the bait schools. That is really the key. Even the guys the other day that marked the salmon, they couldn't get a response bite out of them. I think that run-in tide is really the better, because they tend to be then move up into that shallow water down that Air Force Channel. Obviously the dredge is still working and pumping more sand onto that inevitable giant sand island, which should never be there, but you still haven't got that access up and down from Marks Point. Little tinnies on the high tide, not a problem, but the bigger vessels, you're going to have to come around and go through the Air Force Channel. There has been a few mulloway getting caught of an evening, and look, squid numbers, they're patchy, and more often than not, the guys that are catching the squid are finding them when they're targeting flathead. So it's always handy just to have that squid rigged up, ready to roll, or even dragging in the water just a couple of metres behind the boat. When the squid are following up the lure, you can alternate back across to the jig. The one thing is for sure though, kingfish in Lake Macquarie. We're getting really a lot of reports, some great fish down around the Pulborough Island area, and a lot of the yacht markers, Coley, and when you look at the lake itself, there's so many yacht turning markers along the lake. They're well worthwhile to have a cast set with a stick bait, but even down rigging either squid if you can get them, or ducking out the heads and maybe getting a few live yellowtail, coming back in and down rigging some of these yellowtail in the lake are really proving to get some cracking fish, and a lot of fish above 80 centimetres. So there's a lot of fun for all of the family this weekend. I think all in all, guys, you're going to have to be careful on the water this weekend. It's going to be a busy place. You need to make sure all your safety equipment's updated, so just need to check that before you get out. Make sure you start your motor before you go. And of course, this weekend, we've got the big grand final weekend. Obviously, in the men's competition, whoever's the better team's going to win, whether it's Penrith or the Broncos. I'm unsure, but I know as an overcaster, we want our women's team to get out there and have a go, and the girls are more than capable. They're going to have a very hot time down there on Sunday, because it's going to be like 35 degrees. So go the Knights. And guys, we've got plenty of worms to tackle some of these whiting that are in and the estuary, but play it safe. If you're driving, be careful of the roads. We'll see you at the store, and I'll see you next Friday.